Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and today is the pre-season episode for season number 5, and this could be quite a big season indeed. Going into this one, of course, off the back of a very different season 4, where our team went bankrupt at the very start of that season, having to recover not only money, but also R&D for a lack of aerodynamics there after that got reset and the regulation change, and finally, at the end of last season, indeed last episode at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the finale of Season 4, if you did miss that, by the way, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. We achieved a double podium, 2-3, for myself and Pierre Gasly, and so with that, I hope that's the foundation for going into this season, it being one where we're back into the championship fight. Myself and Gasly, I mean, especially, you got to say, Gasly was performing insane last season, especially in the second half, so I think he's going to be a real threat for not only other teams, but also ourselves, really, in the inter-team battle. But it's going to be a really interesting one. And on top of that, we got a few little surprises and additions we're going to be adding to Season 5 to just spice things up and keep things a little bit fresh. But before we get on to revealing what that may entail, you can maybe guess by the title a little bit, but we first got to do some admin here for the end of this season and collect our prize money and such. Re-sign, obviously, Pierre Gasly, as we've said. We are going to re-sign him because he did a mega job last season. I'm happy to have him in the team. He's going to push us, I think, harder and make us improve as a driver, I think, as well. And also, it's going to be really good to have a strong teammate to battle the other rival teams. Because clearly last season, you saw how good Red Bull and McLaren were at times. Even Ferrari pre their nerf. But you've got to remember now, Ferrari going into this next season will not have that deficit anymore to catch up. They'll kind of, start off where they kind of actually are. So that's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of come back through this. But to that effect, we have to continue improving the car. We have to continue upgrading because we can't rest on our kind of laurels in terms of how we ended off very strongly in Brazil. So we go ahead and purchase an ultimate engine upgrade, ultimate chassis update, and 2 minor upgrades on the aero, which are going to unlock the final 2 ultimate aero upgrades. So we've got to go through that on the aero side, unfortunately. So only 2 minors on that kind of end of the spectrum, but still 2 ultimate upgrades on the engine and chassis. That's going to be a massive boost. And then also, I would say probably very quickly within the first few episodes, we should be able to hopefully earn enough R&D points to purchase those final 2 ultimate aero upgrades. So we're going to definitely max out this car about halfway through the season, I would say. It wasn't plain sailing, though. As you can clearly see in the background here is actually one of the upgrades on the aero fail, which is very surprising. It was a minor upgrade and it failed on our car. We've got the morale so high. We've got the kind of, in terms of the HQ upgrades, to the point where I was very shocked and taken aback. We actually had a fail on a minor upgrade, but there we go. But the engine and chassis upgrades will come through. We'll repurchase that failed aero upgrade, so that will all come through towards the end of the season. But here we are then, looking to approach Pierre Gasly to re-sign him. He's 99 rated at the moment, could definitely be 100 rated with some extra training there for the experience, because every other stat he's got is 100 rated there. But we're going to go for the medium risk, the same contract value he's got, and to my surprise, he actually declined the offer. So Gasly feels like he is worth more than his current valuation, obviously, from the previous contract of 13.55 million, which is fair enough. Obviously, he came to our team as an unproven driver and now has, obviously, a race win under his belt at Singapore. So it's fair enough. So I was taken aback by that, again, very much like with the aero as well. So some surprising lack of kind of smooth ending to the Season 4 transition, basically. But we go again on the next day, and this time we offer him a much higher kind of salary and contract there, 14.55 million. So if someone wants to go buy him out wherever, they're going to have to spend quite a fair bit, but of course it's worth it because he is 99 rated, and certainly in the second half of the season he was the better driver. So I think he's going to have a lot of momentum, as we've seen so far in this game, which is very important for the AI going into this Season 5. But yeah, still ending out then this kind of current end of season period, and like I said, maybe not the smoothest way to end it, with a few bumps in the road with those upgrades failing and that negotiation having to go through onto 2 days. But eventually we do get through to the end of this season. Again, we're met with another little failure on the chassis side, so we have to repurchase that as well, but that will now guarantee to be on the car then by the time we even reveal the car and launch it. So that's pretty much the max we can do on upgrading the car. We've maximized the engine side of things. We've maximized, or we will do, maximize the chassis side. So all all we've got to do is 2 ultimate upgrades and 1 major on the aero front, that major one being DRS, so that won't be a massive issue. It's really the 2 ultimate upgrades on the front and rear downforce, and then some durability upgrades, but I'm not really too worried about that, because us personally, we didn't actually have to take any grid penalties last season, so it wasn't really much of an issue, and obviously those upgrades don't affect those random mechanical failures that Gasly got. You can't sadly do anything about that. It's all about the game just randomly, you know, generating that unlucky situation for you in the race. But here we are then, the end of season stats. Of course, Gasly did get 1 win and 3 pole positions, but we did end up with more points as we obviously started off the season a little bit stronger. But once the car kind of got in a range of the poles of that win, Gasly just turned up the notch. It was kind of actually almost, ever since he re-signed for us halfway through the season at Silverstone, remember, ever since then he kind of turned up. So I think that definitely boosted his morale and kind of pace, I guess, in a way, you would say. But that is a pretty strong season, I would say, considering we started off as the 2nd worst car on the grid. Definitely the worst aero by a long way. We recovered well, but now transitioning into the following calendar year in-game and into Season 5 officially, it is time to make use of that good work we did last season and build upon a good foundation and hopefully a championship fight. So we're now officially into basically the next season, the next calendar year. You can see 25th of February, and we've got the car reveal coming up. We've also got plenty of time on the activity timeline to do some activities. Going to try and fit in as much as we can that's useful and relevant for us. So driver training, just to boost the experience of Gasly as much as we can to get him to that overall 100, even though the rest of his stats are already 100-rated. And then we do a 5-day aero and chassis focus, which will boost the morale of the aero department, which we need for those ultimate upgrades, hopefully not to fail when we can purchase them. And also at the same time, we'll boost the, I think, the resource points as well. But before we get into the car reveal, obviously at the end of last episode, you guys were voting in a straw poll for the main sponsor on the car. That'll be on the side pods, the top of the chassis, the halo, and the overalls. Of course, we have 4 different options, as we have done since the very beginning of this career, from you guys to choose from, and you guys have voted. It was a very tight vote. I was very surprised at how tight this was. Obviously, 2 pretty decent brands, I think iconic in different ways. Obviously, you've got one which is a streetwear brand and one which is a bit more iconic just for F1, as Cannon used to be on, obviously, the Williams car back in the day when it was yellow and blue. But in the end, narrowly, the streetwear brand Supreme has won out, which kind of really plays to my kind of streetwear culture kind of heart. So thank you very much for that, guys. So we're going to have Supreme as our main sponsor on the overalls and the car as well. So I can reveal now our brand new overalls and kind of look for the team. We've obviously got the Jordan branding now. Obviously, our team was technically already sponsored by Nike on the car since Season 2. And so very much like PSG have done with Nike, as they've kind of forged that partnership with Jordan and created kind of Jordan branded kits and whatnot in real life, we're going to be doing the same in-game. So now, instead of Nike branding, it's Jordan on it, and you can see the kind of actual top half of the overalls kind of almost looks like a kind of football kit in a way, with a kind of singular stripe down the middle, and then you've got the big Jordan badge on the left-hand side, and then of course you can see Supreme branding across, and also a cheeky little nod to Quadrant as well on the arms as well. But it is now time to reveal our brand new car for season number 5, and I really like it. It's a lovely evolution and merge of a lot of the different designs we've had so far from season 2, 3, and 4, and we've got this nice blend. We've got kind of black at the front and the back, and then it quickly transitions to white in the middle. With this season, for the first time since the very start of this career in season 1, we've gone for a white halo instead, and the top being a little bit kind of grey to black transition to white should make the onboard look a little bit different this season, a little bit unique compared to the previous 2. But you can see the Supreme branding on the side pods and the top of the chassis, and also on the wings as well. We've got Ray-Ban on the rear wing, as along with YouTube, as we had previously before the kind of whole bankruptcy thing. And then we've got Total as our fuel supplier, sponsored on the engine cover, as well as obviously the good old Dart Fruits. So take a good look at this car. Hopefully this will be the car that sees us back into race-winning ways and a championship fight, either myself or Pierre Gasly. I honestly don't know how it's going to go, really, because obviously last season was a winless season for me, so I need to actually get a win under my belt to kind of feel a bit more confident about us challenge for the championship. But it's going to be a very interesting one, I gotta say, because going into this one, let's look at the R&D chart, and you can see things things are very, very close. Look how close Ferrari, Red Bull, AlphaTauri, ourselves, and McLaren are there. Racing Point not too far behind either, because you've got to remember the scaling on the left-hand side is very, very tiny actually in comparison to the actual full length of the graph that we started with in Season 1. So this field spread is tiny, even smaller in a way than last season. Mercedes at the top there, but as we saw in the last 2 seasons, their AI, the drivers, Bottas and Hamilton, they've been so woeful and definitely not been at their best, and they've gone so unlucky as well with just the kind of random kind of failures they've had and also incidents they've got into. They really weren't looking like the top team, but they come into this season technically on paper there. We'll see how that kind of goes out. And then Renault a little bit lagging behind a tiny bit, but as I said, the field spread's so small that all those guys are probably only separated by, I don't know, I think the entire kind of, you know, for the top 7 teams, I would say is probably covered only by about, I don't know, 4/10, 5/10 at best. I think definitely you can say Ferrari down to McLaren there, that kind of little mid-pack in a way. But underneath MERC, we're all going to be covered by literally 1/10, I think, which is going to be madly, madly exciting. But as I said at the start of this episode, we've got a few little additions this season to keep things fresh, kind of visually, aesthetically. No, we're not going to kind of change any of the cars and whatnot in terms of performance, but in terms of the actual aesthetics, Mercedes are now going to return to their kind of bog standard silver arrows look. So the kind of pre-season look they had in the game when the game first launched. So it's a silver arrow once again for the Mercedes team. Whether that's going to mean any change of fortune for them, I'm not too sure. They really had a torrid time last season, but when you hit rock bottom, can it get much worse than that? I'm not too sure. McLaren are going to be running a brand new Gulf Racing livery. So the blue is now a Gulf Racing blue. Of course, they were a championship contender last season, so potentially more budget coming in. So the kind of story here would be Gulf Air looking to boost their sponsorship with the team to, you know, basically solidify what was a very, very solid year as a top team last season for McLaren. Then we've got a kind of inspiration from real life. Alpine entering Formula 1, rebranding Renault. Obviously, in-game it will still be called Renault, but the livery is now going to be the Alpine blue and red. The numbers may look a little bit awkward right here on this clip with the yellow numbers, but in-game, once we get into the full season, they will be accordingly kind of red and white, so it'll look a little bit more kind of, you know, to match essentially. And even though I will admit the car does look a little bit odd from here, trust me, on board the blue Alpine actually looks pretty damn sweet on board in game, so just trust me on it. It will probably grow on you as we go on through the season actually. And then probably the biggest change to on the teams is Racing Point, who now have an Aston Martin British Racing Green / pink livery here, and so obviously as in real life, Aston Martin are going to be rebranding Racing Point, of course. So in game, in the livery at least, we've got an Aston Martin car. All the names have to stay the same. There's no way to actually modify those at the moment in the game, but the liveries will change, as well as you may see some overalls as well. And if you're on PC on F1 2020, you want to try out some of these mods yourselves, I will leave the links to all the mods, the visual mods I'm using, in the description for the remainder of this series. So big shout out to all the guys who made these particular mods, the individual ones for Race Department. All of them will be linked below. But with some of the car changes revealed then for this upcoming season, it's now time to talk about the driver market and any changes there. Of course, we've stayed stationary with Pierre Gasly, but let's have a look down this order and see what's what. So Nicholas Latifi and George Russell remain an Alfa Romeo, of course, backmarker team, so not surprised they didn't really change. You can see straight away there, AlphaTauri, Valtteri Bottas is now driving for AlphaTauri. So that could be very interesting. I think you can maybe guess what's already happening here. But Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez are now teammates. That's going to be quite a big deal because AlphaTauri are very quick. But it was really Verstappen doing most of the great performances. Perez was there a little bit, but Verstappen was way more consistent in that AlphaTauri last season to get those really good points. So whether that's going to be an improvement or a decrease in performance over the season remains to be seen. Racing Point is now Aston Martin in the kind of livery Ferrari and whatnot are still going to retain Albon and Lance Stroll. No surprise there with Stroll, at least, but Albon is retained. Let's see if they can maybe build upon what was a bit of a quiet season for them last season, and maybe they're going to get amongst it, basically. You've got Ferrari retaining Leclerc and Giovinazzi, of course, this season. They will not have any kind of surprising engine nerf and investigation, so where they start off this season will be where they start off, and they're not going to decrease, they're only going to improve. So it's going to be cool to see how they can get amongst it a little bit more consistently this season. Then you've got Haas, the same, Schumacher, Magnussen, and surprisingly, McLaren still retain Ocon after effectively ruining Lando Norris's title challenge last episode at Brazil. So it's still going to be Norris and Ocon in the now Gulf Racing McLaren. And then we come to a massive bit of driver market change as Max Verstappen has left AlphaTauri, left the Red Bull family once again for the second time in this career of ours, and he has joined Mercedes to partner Lewis Hamilton. How exciting is this? I, for one, hope that Mercedes aren't as woeful as they were last season, and I hope that Hamilton is performing a little bit better, because if he's going toe-to-toe with Verstappen, they could push each other, and that pairing alone, anyway, just by looking at it, is mouth-watering. That is almost what you kind of hope for in real life, in a way. So Verstappen and Hamilton in the Mercedes together, and then you've got Red Bull retaining Sainz and Ricciardo. No shock there, of course. Sainz, the reigning world champion now, going into Season 5 alongside Ricciardo, who didn't really perform that consistently versus Sainz. So you've got a lot of teammates need to buck up, really, after last season and pull their weight, I feel, going into this one, including me, really, to be fair, in the second half. Renault retain Matsushita and then Kvyat and their new Alpine racing car, and then we got Williams in the same driver lineup as well. But very exciting times. You've got Leclerc and Giovinazzi in Ferrari, Hamilton and Verstappen in Mercedes. You've got Norris and Ocon in a very quick McLaren. Maybe Albon and Stroll might get amongst it in the brand new kind of Aston Martin car of theirs. And you've got myself and Pierre Gasly, of course. That is a very exciting shift in the driver market. We've got kind of a fresh aesthetic for a few teams here, including our own, of course, and in terms of the situation we're in, it's a very different situation to last season. We are now going into this one, hopefully looking to springboard ourselves into a title fight here from the get-go, but it's going to be tough. We've got our own teammate to battle, Gasly, who looks so quick, and then you've got this top grid, as I just stated, with the biggest thing being Verstappen in a Mercedes alongside Hamilton. That's going to be majorly exciting. Guys, if you did enjoy this pre-season video, then be sure to hit that like button. If you're looking forward to Season 5, then let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for that, as Season 5 will kick off tomorrow with episode number 1 from that season of the Australian Grand Prix. But till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.